Hey guys, what's up? My name is Kim. I make lo-fi inspired beats under the moniker Nightly Nostalgia, and today I wanted to share a few tips on how to make your chord progressions a little bit better. Now if you're not into lo-fi, you don't make lo-fi, don't get scared, don't run away yet. Most of these topics are applicable to other genres as well. It's basically a way to make your chord progressions maybe a little fuller, a little more emotional. And so I'm going to talk about things like inversions and something called voice leading. So I'm going to base this whole video off of the theory that you don't know any music theory, and hopefully it's easy enough to understand and you can start using these tips right away. So if you enjoy this video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, do all the things, do all the stuff. Really appreciate it, and let's get right into it. All right, so we're here in Ableton Live. And the first thing we want to do if we're starting totally from scratch is we want to pick a key or a scale, which tells us basically what chords and what notes we have to work with. So what we're going to do here is I just created an empty MIDI clip. I just have a stock grand piano loaded as my instrument here. And I created an empty MIDI clip so I can pull up the MIDI editor here. And once you pull that up, you can see this really cool feature that Ableton has, which is the scale function. And you open this and it shows you whatever scale you're playing, it shows you what notes are in that scale. So for now, you can see there are certain grayed out notes because it's showing you the entire keyboard basically. So for C major, only the white keys are what you can play. So every black key here you can see is grayed out because it's not part of the C major scale. So if we wanted to just see the notes we have to work with, we hit the scale button up here, and now it basically folds it so that we can only see the notes in that scale, which is a really, really cool function. If you don't know anything about scales and what notes are in them, or maybe you just want a refresher on what notes are in there, really cool feature. So I mainly do lo-fi, so C major isn't going to cut it. We're going to pick something like D sharp, and we're going to do minor, because it needs to be sad and moody, because it's not lo-fi if it's not sad and moody. So the next thing we need to do once we have our scale is we need to find out what chords are in that scale. So we always want to start with the root note, and if you don't know what the root note means, it's basically the first note of the scale. So we look over here and we see D sharp, so D sharp is going to be our root note. So let's find a D sharp. Here's one. So we're going to start with that, and we're going to make the first chord in the D sharp minor scale. And this is the basic formula. If you have this scale function open, the basic formula is you pick one and skip one. So what I mean by that is we're going to pick a note. So if we want to do the D sharp chord here, we're going to pick the D sharp, we're going to skip one, and then we're going to pick the next one, which is the F sharp. And then we're going to do it one more time. So we're going to skip one, which is the G sharp, and we're going to go up to the A sharp. And ta-da! We created a D sharp minor chord. And that is the first basic chord of the D sharp minor scale. And like I said, that formula of the pick one, skip one works for pretty much all of the major and minor scales if you have this setting here where you only have the notes in the scale selected. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll do the rest of the notes in the scale the same exact way. So I'll just duplicate this. There's the E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, and C sharp. And we're going to stop there because if we do one more, we're just going to repeat the D sharp. So look at, like in a matter of a minute, we found out all of the chords that are in the D sharp minor scale. And I just want to note that these are the basic chords. And by basic, I mean they're triads. So they only have 3 notes, which is cool, but it's also kind of boring, especially if we're doing something like lo-fi, where we want it to be super expressive. So what I'm going to do is I added a 7th note. And so we get that from basically counting up. So we start from the root. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now we have a D sharp minor 7th chord, which sounds, I think, a little jazzier, a little more colorful than just a regular triad. So I'm going to go ahead and add the 7th to the rest of these chords. And another cool thing that adding this 7th note does, other than just making the chord sound a little fuller and nicer on its own, is it gives us some more options if we want to create inversions. And an inversion, just to keep it simple, is basically taking our standard chord. So this is our standard D sharp minor 7th chord. And if we want to do the first inversion, the formula is to take whatever note is on the bottom here, and we're going to move it to the top. So we'll take the D sharp chord, and we're going to move it basically up an octave and put it here. So now our chord that sounded like this is going to sound like this. It's the same notes in the chord, it just sounds a little different because it's arranged differently. And you can see here that a lot of that is because the C sharp and this D sharp are real cozy now, and they're creating some tension. So anytime you have two notes that are right next to each other like that, they're going to create a little bit of dissonance or tension, which, tension usually in itself isn't that great, but it can create some really interesting changes within your chord progressions if you have tension and then you release that tension. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to take some of these chords and we're just going to create a basic chord progression using these chords from the D sharp minor scale. So I'm just going to open another empty MIDI clip here. We'll set this to 4 bars. If I can do it, there we go. And I'm just going to pick 4 of these chords. And if you've seen anything in music theory about the labels for chords or the numberings, basically this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you see those Roman numerals where it says a chord progression is like the 1, 5, 3, basically it's the first chord, the 5th chord, and the 3rd chord. And that's basically all those Roman numerals mean. So for this one, I'm just going to let's take the first chord. We'll put that in here. We'll just stretch it so it's a bar. And then maybe we'll take the 4th. And we'll paste that in here. And then let's go up to the 6. And then, how about we go to 3? Okay, so now we basically took our D sharp minor chords and we created a progression, which is basically just taking the chords in the scale and rearranging them into a nice sounding progression. So let's play this and see how it sounds. So it doesn't sound bad. It doesn't sound bad at all. I do think that we can make it a little bit nicer sounding. So I want to take the idea of inversion that I just talked about and maybe make this a little more cohesive. So one thing that I'm looking at here is you see the chords, obviously they have a vertical aspect because they're going, if we're looking at this piano roll, they're going up and you can see these notes playing. And we can think of these notes instead of just a chord, these are 4 different notes that are playing separately. And so what I like to do is I like to look at it horizontally as well, and this is called voice leading. So if we're looking at how this voice is going to resolve into the next chord, and we can kind of create a progression that maybe sounds a little more cohesive than just having these kind of stock chords happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and put it into a new MIDI clip so we still have our original once we're done here, because I want to show you guys how different it's going to sound just by using the same chords. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this first one alone because I like that one, and I don't really like that it's going up like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this entire chord and move it down an octave. And I know I told you guys that, you know, the standard first inversion is to move the bottom and move it up here. And I mean, the whole point of music, and I feel like the reason most people make music is because you want to be creative. So don't feel like you need to, you know, move this and then move this and keep it totally static like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this B and I'm going to move it up an octave. So now we have this D sharp and F sharp that are being sustained here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this one down an octave as well. And I think I'm going to leave that one the way it is because I kind of like this, the way that this is going here. And for this last one, I'm going to move that down as well. And then I'm going to take this F sharp and just do that first inversion with it and put it here for a little bit of tension. So let's go ahead and see how that sounds. Nope, that's the wrong one. That one. Okay, that sounds kind of more lo-fi to me. And this doesn't necessarily just need to be for lo-fi. This can be, you know, for any type of music where you want to make it a little more colorful, a little more, you know, just kind of give it that emotion. Because I feel like that's what music is supposed to be, right? It takes the listener kind of on a journey. At least that's what I try and do with my music. So let me play again for you guys. This is the first chord progression we did, which is the standard 7th chords from the scale, and it sounded like this. And then just by doing inversions of the same chords, we got this. So it kind of is personal preference if, you know, which one you like better. I like this one better. You also get a little bit of that tension there, which resolves itself when it loops back here. So I think that's a really cool and fun way to just kind of create new chord progressions using the same chords, but just using some inversions and thinking about the idea of voice leading to kind of direct how you want to arrange your chords. So I hope that this was helpful and it wasn't too confusing, because I know music theory can be pretty confusing if you are coming at it from, you know, knowing nothing about it. So if you enjoyed this, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. It is so much appreciated because I'm just trying to get my channel going and I can use all the help I can get. And I'm planning on doing more of these videos in the future and maybe just showing how I make some beats. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.